folks, what's going on? How are we doing? This is Michael. Graveyard shift. Wee hours of the night. Jacked up on plenty of coffee. Gonna go make some more here in a minute. Hope your week's been good. It's time for the weekend, man. That's what I'm talking about. This is like the last of my 12-hour shift run. Something like that. I get a few days off. Classes start next week. And then I'll just be a hot mess all over again. Of course, why should any of those days be different from any other? Anywho, let's get right to it. The answer to the previous trivia question, if you didn't figure it out, was the polio vaccine by Jonas Salk. Really good trivia question. Good stuff to research. The polio, if you don't know, for those who didn't grow up with it, okay, and have never heard of it, don't know the history of it, is a highly infectious disease, mostly affecting young children, that attacks the nervous system and can lead to spinal and respiratory paralysis. It's a serious disease. You do not want to play around with polio. In some cases, it often causes death. Polio is a disabling and life-threatening disease, bar none, hands down. Polio has existed since prehistoric times, and I did not know that until I started researching this. Ancient Egyptian images, when I've included one there in the pictorials, show children walking with canes with withered limbs, characteristic of the disease. And it only exists in humans. I did not know that either. By the way, going back to the Egyptian carvings and so forth and images, I think that's fascinating that you can get that kind of insight from images like that go all the way back to Egyptian times. That's pretty amazing. And I did not know that until I started researching. Polio outbreaks and epidemics were prominent in the United States between 1948 and 1955. That's what my research indicated, that time period. And during this time, people avoided crowds and public gatherings. And many parents wouldn't let their children play with new friends. Does any of this sound familiar, folks? March 2020 to 2022. Coronavirus, for sure. Same type of variables involved. It quickly became one of the most worrying childhood diseases, and if you talk to anybody who grew up in that era, they were absolutely petrified of getting polio. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, had polio, and probably the most famous person who did have polio. He contracted it in his 20s, late 20s, early 30s. He contracted it in his adulthood. But he was famous, nonetheless, for advocating for support to finding a cure. And he did this through the March of Dimes, which was the focus of another trivia question. I also included that in this current trivia question as well. Now, enter Jonas Salk, who developed a vaccine for the disease in 1952 at the University of Pennsylvania. And this effort was funded in large part by money raised through the March of Dimes, like I was just referencing, and through the efforts of Franklin Delano Roosevelt when he was president in establishing that foundation. Also, that's where the concept and the term poster child came from. A lot of people don't know that, and I didn't know that either. Again, not until you start researching stuff like this, as little neat factoids surface. Now, more than $20 million was being raised by the late 1940s to help find a vaccine. That is a ton of money for 1940, folks. An absolute ton of money. So a lot of people got behind it. Now, on February 23rd, 1954, a group of children from Arsenal Elementary School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, received the first injections of the new polio vaccine, developed by Mr. Jonas Salk. And that, of course, was the focus of the trivia question. By 1959, check this out, some 90 other countries were using Salk's very same vaccine. And by 2021, 2 years ago, there were only 6 confirmed cases of polio across the globe, folks. That's called eradication. That's pretty darn cool. This famous polio vaccine clinical trial between that time period that I referenced earlier, 1948, 1954, was the biggest public health experiment in American history, and quite successful. Thank you very much. Jonas Salk did not patent the polio vaccine. I did know that, but I think that's a cool geek factoid to highlight, because he felt He didn't get it patented because he felt it was so important that the vaccine should be available to everyone. Today, the polio vaccine is pretty much standard for newborns in the series of shots that we all received, and our newborn babies still do. Jonas Salk felt it was important that the vaccine be available to everyone, so he declined, like I was saying, to patent it, and he did not profit at all from his creation. Now, contrary to popular belief, Jonas Salk never received the Nobel Prize. I thought for sure he was a recipient of the Nobel Prize. I just kind of defaulted to that assumption. But he did not win the Nobel Prize for his work on the polio vaccine because, check this out, it was technically developed based on previous scientific discoveries before he came along, and therefore was deemed unoriginal and not Nobel-worthy. I am very curious to get your feedback on that, because I just think that's... I think he should have, without question, got some kind of prize, and certainly the Nobel Prize, for his work and his service in eradicating polio. Guess what, folks? It is the weekend. Let's get it. It's last weekend before classes start, so I'm really going to be stressed out like I was saying before. So let's get it started. Let's go have some fun for February. And it's warming up, too. Man, I'm ready for spring. That's what I'm talking about. So for February 25th, to get the weekend started, here's your brand new trivia question. On this day, in 1862, after the passage of the Legal Tender Act, so the government could finance the costly Civil War, this Secretary of Treasury was depicted on the very first $1 bill. His image would also go on to be used on the largest denomination Federal Reserve note ever issued for public circulation. Any idea who this is? Good luck, folks. Have a good weekend, everybody. Go have some fun. Not too much fun, though. I'll see you next time. Thanks for all you do. Peace out.